Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Birth to Me podcast. This is going to be women's journeys throughout pregnancy and birth. We will be discussing infertility, treatments, and different types of births such as C-sections or natural births. If that is something that might be a trigger to you, feel free to see the title at the beginning, and we will always list what it's about. So if that's something that you are uncomfortable with, feel free to exit and join us at another episode. I hope you're doing well today, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Sit back and enjoy this special story from one of our friends. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Birth to Me podcast. This is going to be women's journeys throughout pregnancy and birth. We will be discussing infertility, treatments, and different types of births such as C-sections or natural births. If that is something that might be a trigger to you, feel free to see the title at the beginning, and we will always list what it's about. So if that's something that you are uncomfortable with, feel free to exit and join us at another episode. I hope you're doing well today, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Sit back and enjoy this special story from one of our friends. I'm happy to have you on here today, and I'm happy to get to know you better. So just tell me about what you do. Are you a doula?
Yes, thank you for having me, by the way. I'm a birth doula, certified birth doula, and then I am one placenta away from being a certified placenta specialist and encapsulator.
How exciting.
Yes, I just finished my first one last night. So very excited. And then I've got another one lined up, probably next week. So
that's so cool.
It's pretty exciting. Yeah.
And so
I've got two little girls.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Yeah, she's right here. She's 5 months. Well, she turned 6 months old today.
Oh, congratulations. How exciting. Half a year old.
I know. Made me sad.
I have 5, and it seems like it doesn't matter how many you have. It still is very emotional.
I have a shirt on, by the way. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
I have a shirt on.
I totally have breastfed 4 children. So you do what you can. And I wear camis still. Like mine oldest is a year and a half, and I wear camis all the time.
Yeah, that's all I wear during the day.
Because, I mean, why not? If you layer up, you're going to be layering down, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited. Tell me a little bit about your births if you want to.
My personal births or the births that doula?
I mean, either one. I mean, whichever one you feel more comfortable speaking about.
I technically haven't been to any births yet, doula-wise, because I just got certified back in October, I believe. But I do have experience in the birth world. It's just ironically every time I'm supposed to go to a birth, third time this has happened, I ended up not being able to make it, or they don't call me. So
I feel like people get nervous, and especially I've been in the doula area for a few years, and I feel like people feel guilty almost, and you're like, no, I want to be immersed in. They need to understand that we are a little obsessed.
Yeah. I tried explaining that to them, and I work with a lot of young moms, so I feel like they feel like they're a burden to me, and they're absolutely not. And I don't want to badger them to feel forced to call me, but at the same time, they paid for that, so call me.
And you're telling them, you're like, I promise you, if you call me, I'm going to get excited on the spectrum. Versus, I think that's so funny. But I saw that you were a doula, and you're local to me in the Chattanooga area. So I was super thrilled whenever you reached out to me, and I was like, yay! Because whenever you're able to talk to other doulas, every doula, birth worker, midwife I've ever met, you have this ecstatic, I love birth. Tell me about every birth you've ever been to kind of feeling. And so I love that. I love that this year you're going to start diving into it more and you're going to get to be in
Yeah.
births and you're going to get to be there. That's so
Mhm.
exciting.
Yeah, I kind of jumped into it a little. I was so bored, 2 months postpartum, sitting at home all day long. So I was like, I have to do something.
Yeah.
And I had originally gone through a online birth and postpartum doula course. I just never finished it because I felt like I needed more in-person on hands training, or hands-on training. And so I figured, I don't know if you know Kaylee Austin, but she was my midwife's student at my birth, but she acted as my doula, and she got me into a doula training here in Chattanooga. And so I brought Opie here with me to the training, and I got certified. Um, but I think I jumped into it a little too fast without thinking about it because I exclusively breastfeed, and she won't take a bottle, and so I'm sitting here like, oh, there's no way I can attend a birth right now,
Right.
um, fully. So I'm just gonna focus on placentas right now. That
Yeah.
way I can do the work at home and still be with my baby. Um, but it's been a passion of mine for a couple years now to get into the birth world. I eventually want to become a midwife. Like, I cannot wait. That's like my ultimate goal. I want it so bad, but I'm not patient enough for it right now.
I understand you have a lot of eggs in different baskets, but
Yeah,
you getting all this experience now, and especially you get
yeah,
to be close to the mamas, whenever you are in that midwife role, I think you're going to do
hmm,
amazing at that because you know firsthand
yeah,
how it feels to be on the other end of the spectrum. So I think that's
yeah,
really cool. And it's really cool to have
yeah.
goals like that too.
Yeah, I had a home birth with Opie back in August, and it kind of just like clicked for me. Like, it
Mhm.
set everything off, and like it opened my eyes up to a whole bunch about the birth world and just my goals and what I want to do. And it's to eventually be a midwife and be a at home midwife, home birth, and
Amazing.
love everything about it. And I cannot wait. But I hands down will forever do home births. I will not do a hospital birth unless absolutely necessary.
Okay, so
Um,
you gotta tell me. I want to know a little bit of your story and why you say that because I've always envisioned a home birth and I had five, and medical trauma really pushes me to
mhm,
say I can't step foot in another hospital, but and the more I had, I seen that a lot of the negligence is the reason why I
mhm,
thought I couldn't have a home birth
yeah,
because
yeah,
things went wrong because of the medical intervention.
yes,
And so
yes.
tell me about it. I'm interested now.
I
Got me
was
enveloped.
16. Yeah, exactly. I was 16 when I first got pregnant with my first daughter. I have two. Um, and I was not educated, didn't know anything,
Mhm.
didn't know anybody.
As we all
Was
are
in a
with our first.
horrible, yeah, yeah. So I was in a horrible situation. I was 16, had no support, no family, that really helped besides my mom. But I went into it getting induced and not knowing any of the complications or risks that came with that because doctors don't tell you about it. And I trusted my doctor, and it's not his fault. He wasn't even there. He missed it. But
Mhm.
um, it was just traumatic. I almost died. I had to have a DNC. I lost a lot of blood, and it all could have been prevented if the hospital and doctors and nurses would have let my body do what it needed to do. Um, and if I would have gotten the proper education for
Mhm.
it and what my body is made to do. And I didn't know anything about it. And, I didn't think anything of it. And then, I didn't get to bond with my baby immediately after birth. And that, I think, set off the negative triggers that followed through to postpartum psychosis, actually, undiagnosed, untreated postpartum
Bless your heart.
psychosis. Thankfully, it didn't get nearly as bad as some of the cases you hear.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it, with me being, for one, 16, I should have been watched. I should have been, I definitely needed more than one postpartum checkup, is
Yes.
all I gotta say. It shouldn't just be one.
And not at 6 weeks or 8 weeks along.
Yeah, yeah, because by that time you're starting to get the hang of everything for the most part, but you need early intervention.
Hmm.
That's and so, so a year and a half later, I finally got treatment. I got medication and therapy, and I started to feel better. And then I started college, and figured that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I'm like $15,000 in debt for something I don't want to do. But so I was sitting in my living room one day, and I've always kept what happened with me and my first daughter's birth. Um, I've always held it close because it really has messed me up in certain ways, and I feel like, and I hate saying it because it makes me feel so bad, but I bonded with her so much more because of the outcome of the birth that I had than I did with my first daughter. Now, I'm not saying we aren't close, because she is my little best friend and I grew up with her, literally. And, she's 5 now. She just turned 5. So we've literally grown up together. I'm about to be 22. So like I was still a child when I had my child.
Yeah.
And so it all, I don't even know. None of it really hit me until a couple of years later of how traumatic it actually was. Because I didn't know anything. I didn't know how important the skin was. I didn't know how important, I'm a breastfeeding advocate. Like, I am obsessed with breastfeeding. I'm trying not to be pushy about it, because better's best. But if I hear a mama saying that she wants to breastfeed, I'm gonna make sure she, has help she needs. But
because the support we know, and the support and the education will help,
that I did not have.
Yes.
And oh gosh, it's all such a mess when I look back on it with my first daughter. And it breaks my heart because the support I have now with my second compared with my first, and all the resources that I have with my second, and, it breaks my heart to look back. And then I look at Opie's birth, and I was so supported during pregnancy. Physically, it was a hard pregnancy, but emotionally it was okay. And I look back, and the support I had mentally with this one compared to my first one really set forth a good stepping stone of positive outcomes with Opie's birth. And when it came time for it, there's probably, I can't think of one thing I would change.
That's great.
With Opie's birth, I think I would have not had as many people there, but it didn't cause any negative outcomes. But I have bonded so much more with Opie because I got the necessary, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but I got to do whatever I wanted. And I got to let my body do what it needed to do, and let my baby do what it needed to do in order to come to earth. And I healed quickly. I'm 6 months in, exclusively breastfeeding.
Congratulations. That's a milestone.
Thank you. It is. And some people, don't see it that way. They're like, okay, cool, whatever. But I'm like, no, besides having a healthy baby, this is all I wanted, was to be able to successfully breastfeed. Because my first one, I had to use a nipple shield the entire time I fed with her for 5.5 months.
That's very
because nobody helped me. And she had an undiagnosed and untreated lip tie and tongue tie, which caused us to have to use the nipple shield. And
had a double
she eventually weaned herself way too early for me. And I feel like that also had a lot to do with the depression and everything. There's so much that triggered my mental status with my first one, but it all could have been avoided. I think it all could have been changed if I had the support I needed as a new mom. Whether it's your first, second, fifth, millionth, I don't care. You still need support.
So I think that I really like that you've had experiences in 2 different spectrums of the birth world, as we would look at it, from the outside. And you have had where you didn't do a lot of education because you were young, and because the resources really aren't out there, especially a few years ago. And so you go into it and you see, you did exactly what, paper textbook says to do, and then you weren't happy, and then the negative emotions carried through into postpartum. Whereas when you educated yourself with your home birth, it seems like you were more in control. You flew with your body, you did what you needed to do. And you can tell that that made a significant difference also in the postpartum.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were able to love mamas, as doulas in the
Yeah.
beginning, when you first
And
get pregnant.
still, I had, you know, I had support for my husband really, and maybe my mom this time around, but I guess because it was my second child that it wasn't nearly as exciting. So not anybody really wanted to come help like with my first. Um and so that it did change my, I am on medication again, just because I have a history of mental illness, and
Yeah.
you're 10 times more likely to experience postpartum depression, anxiety, rage, blah blah blah, if you have pre-existing mental health conditions. And it did get pretty bad with OP for a little bit. My anxiety was through the roof, and it was getting to the point where I couldn't even leave the house. So I feel like I could have definitely used more woman to woman support, mom to mom support here postpartum, like fresh postpartum, because I didn't have that besides my couple of postpartum visits with my midwife and Kaylee, my doula. Um, and then other than that, nobody really helped me. And I sadly got used to it yet again. Um, but this time I knew what to look for. So this time I got help when I thought I needed it, and I probably should have a little bit earlier than what I did. But that's hard with two kids.
Yeah.
But it did help going to the doula training, because I did get to meet a lot of new moms and doulas that are very excited to be doing birth work and helping moms like me that are struggling. And so since becoming actually certified, I have made it like my ultimate goal for whenever I do start taking, a big load of clients on, is to just mentally be there and advocating and education. I could go on and on about birth and breastfeeding all day if you would listen, because one, I have the time, and two, I love it. So
Yes.
But it's just people. I don't know how to word this, but I feel like there's so much more research coming out now and studies, that I'm still learning something new every single day as a mom and a doula and a woman. And I feel like a lot of these first time moms, because they're being told everything by everybody, the last thing they want to hear is, even though it should be the one thing they want to hear, is evidence-based research and information and education. And so it's hard to get it out there, because for one, I don't, you'd be surprised, and I'm sure that there's not a whole lot of women out there that even know what a doula is. And so they're not easily trusted.
You say the word and some people say, "Oh, what?"
Yeah. So it's just, I want to scream in people's faces. Like, I'm so enthusiastic about birth
Like
and home
birth
birth.
worker.
Yeah, literally, like I talk my husband's head off about birth all the time.
My husband told
He's
me I
gotten
need
used
to
to
have
it.
more friends that like birth, because he's like, "You've told me
Yeah.
the same thing over and over again."
Yeah. I do the same thing.
You're like, "It's so exciting though."
It is, yeah. And I wish I could scream it at people without being overbearing, because I'm just so excited about it. I wish I could get a megaphone and just yell it.
You get online and you're like, "Look at this position this baby
Yeah,
was born in. Isn't that so
yeah.
neat?" And
And
they're like,
everybody's like,
"What?
"No, Jada."
Everybody has baby." No, not this way.
Yeah.
It's so
And
neat.
in Chattanooga, and unless you know somebody in the birth world, and this isn't, to everybody, but I don't know a whole lot of people who know even how safe a home birth is. And that's another goal of mine, is to educate on how safe they can be for low risk women.
I love that.
Because not everybody in my family was like, "What the heck? You're having a home birth?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, because I have a history of hemorrhaging after
Yes.
birth, but that can be normal. You might not think so. Some people might not think so, because you're losing blood, but there's a certain amount of blood that's
Able
normal
to
to
be
lose.
lost.
And I hemorrhaged a little bit more than that. And so normally I just need a shot of Pitocin to stop the bleeding. Um, and they were all surprised. And then I was GBS positive with OB, and they were like, but if you're not in a hospital, how is it going to be safe? And I'm like, my home birth, my certified midwife is able to give me antibiotics and IV. It's just as safe as the hospital, if not more.
Well, and you're aware of what to look for if you need to go to the hospital.
So. Yeah. And just because my midwife doesn't have a doctorate degree or isn't a medical doctor does not mean that she's not trained or educated or knows what to do. She is amazing, and I love her so much. I will forever use her.
What is
every kid I have?
Tell me.
It's Oriana.
That's a beautiful name.
Yeah, I know. She studied under Debbie Church.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Kaylee Austin was my acting doula, but she is she's almost done with her midwife training, so super excited for her.
I'm excited for her. That's
she's great. Amazing. I love her to pieces. There's just, I've met so many great women, and it's awesome now to have that group of people to turn to, because they're not going to judge you. We're all people, we're human, so we're going to judge here and there, but for the most part, it's been amazing to just sit back and see of how natural it comes to this group of women and myself to open up and talk about vaginas to people I can't talk about vaginas to. So, and then another great thing is, my 5-year-old, she's learned like body autonomy and private parts, and she calls it vagina now. And some people think it's weird that she saw me give birth and she saw the baby come out. And I was like, it's beautiful. She loved it. Now she gets a little freaked out with the blood, but last night I was doing a placenta in my kitchen, and she came over and looked over the counter and loved it. Yeah. I was like, if you shield them from this, and I've gotten so many bad comments about, me teaching her that her private part is a vagina instead of calling it something else. And part of that was me being able to educate myself through pregnancy and all the home birth videos and stuff I watched. She liked to watch it, and some people might find it wrong, but I don't. I think it's great. She will be comfortable with her own body one day. Yep, because she grew up being comfortable, so.
And there's no reason not to be, so that's
fun. Yeah. And so there's so many good things that have come out of me having a home birth, other than having the home birth. It's great. I'm a changed person. I healed through Opie's birth from Paisley's birth.
Beautiful. That is beautiful.
And I think that's on my website. That quote right there is I literally did. I healed. Parts of me healed as a person, mom, woman, through Opie's birth from my first birth. That
going forward, you saying that, other women will hear this and think, my next birth can be everything I want, or something that can heal me from the trauma of my first birth. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I want to be an a home birth only doula. Because like what you mentioned earlier, I don't know if I can even set foot in a hospital right now and watch somebody else give birth in a hospital and support them. It's not that I have a problem with you wanting a hospital birth. It's just I've not healed from the hospital birth.
You might hyperventilate. I understand.
Yeah, and watching a doctor do something that your client didn't consent to, and I'm just supposed to stand there
and accept
because I have to. Yeah, I'm sorry, can't do it right now. Sorry. And I've been told, I'm eventually going to have to suck it up, but no, I don't, because if I want to, I can only take home birth clients, and that's perfectly okay. And I know a couple of other doulas who pretty much only take hospital births because of that reason. They want to change the scene of hospital births and make it as calming and free as a home birth, which is great. And I applaud them and kudos to them, but I can't do it right now. It's not me. So, but I don't know, I can't even put it into words how changed I am from the home birth and how open-minded I am to things now. Like, it changed my whole perspective of life, and I cannot wait. Like, I want more babies just to have more home births.
That's awesome. That's the way it's supposed to be. I feel like that we're supposed to be excited and not. And my last one was that way. My number 5, I had such a good midwife that I knew that I was in control of my body, and so.
Who was your midwife?
Katie Beth Jacobs with Wish. They're at Erlanger at Gun Barrel.
Okay.
And I told her I recommended her to all my friends because never once did I get medication mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, she said, "You told me when I first met you that you were going to have a baby natural, and that's what we're going to
Yeah.
do." And
Yeah.
that's all that women need to hear sometimes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
unless there's medically necessary, which
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah.
But for me and
But
my
it's been so
body,
normalized to just throw
right?
medication at you, the epidurals, and you can do as you please. But I just wish women would just hear us birth workers out a little bit and just give your body the chance.
I know it's kind of hard
Because
for
you'd
some
be
people.
amazed.
The the
You'd
the
be
the
amazed.
pain, yes. But
Yeah.
I have the more I've listened to, if you're able to understand and work with the contractions, the pain
Mm-hmm.
almost is not even really pain.
It's yeah, yeah. I I don't think it's hard to explain, but I understand what you're saying. Like
Yeah.
I remember hitting my wall in my bedroom
Mm-hmm.
and screaming it would take me to transfer me to the hospital. But I promised everybody before then, do not I don't care. As long as me and baby are fine, do not take me to the
This is
hospital. And they all
transition. Don't let me do this.
yeah. And so all I needed to hear was it's just 1 minute. It's
Mhm.
you can do it for 1 minute. That's all I needed to hear from my doula, Kaylee. And I I did. I did
Mhm.
it. All I needed was I didn't want anybody else touching me but her. I needed that physical support that doulas, service and offer. And I needed the encouragement. I needed to be told that I can do it because I'm
Mhm.
not saying that husbands aren't great support people, but I do feel like doulas, that's one of their main purposes is to be right there in your ear telling you you can do it for that 1 minute because you can. It
Mhm.
may not seem like it in the moment, but you can, and it hurts,
It's,
but
you know, 45
it's
seconds
such a
of
good
your
hurt.
life.
Yeah, yeah.
Once you realize
But
the contractions are bringing baby down, you're
mm-hmm,
like, I can
yeah,
relax, you know?
yeah, yeah. 1 minute I was in the midst of transition. The next minute I was in the pool, and it was all blurred of how I got there, but I did. And then I felt her head in my canal, and I was like, she's coming, and everybody backed off, and I was like, okay, do your thing. And I was like, cool, cool.
Let me
And
do
I got
the
to,
thing. Yeah.
because I listened to my body and I let it do what it needed to do. I didn't have to push. I experienced a fetal ejection reflex, and I'm so happy because I've always wanted to, because I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
And I get to brag that I didn't have to push this time. She came out when she needed to, how she needed to.
Mhm.
And the only scary part about my home birth was she did have a lot of meconium.
Uh-huh.
And oh, good morning.
Good morning. And nice to meet you.
Um,
Hello, beautiful.
sorry, I've got my AirPod in 1 second.
No, you're fine. She's so beautiful. Hi, baby. Look at those healthy cheeks. Oh,
Oh
yeah.
no, can you
She's
hear
doing.
me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry. There we go.
No, you're fine.
Uh, I don't know what I was saying a minute ago.
She had a lot of meconium.
Oh yeah, she was born with a lot of meconium, and so it took her a minute to come,
Yeah.
to transition. But she didn't need to be resuscitated or anything. But that's because my birth team, they worked with her. They didn't do anything to her. They worked with her, and they let her transition with a little bit of support. But and people think it was actually I was in so much shock I didn't even notice that they were stimulating her. But now that I look back at my videos, I could see how it would be a little bit scary. But if you have a trained midwife and birth team, there's so much that they can do that the hospitals also can do. So I'm just such a big advocate for home birth and breastfeeding and all the above. And I want moms to know that they do have support.
You do
You
have
know?
options too. It's not, you don't have to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Hi.
You say hi?
She looks so healthy. Look at her.
She is a plump baby. She is very plump.
I love that. My she's already 1.5 and she's losing all the baby fat. And
Oh,
so I am so sad.
she is. She's gotten more active, so she's staying at a steady weight now, but she was rapidly gaining weight.
Yeah, yeah. They do that, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome. I didn't even know about your home birth journey. I
Yeah.
thought originally that you'd tell me about being a doula, but I love that you
Mm-hmm.
had such a good story. I really
Yeah.
am excited that other people get to hear it and other people get to like. I know I have friends who are pregnant right now who are like, I really want a home birth, but I'm scared, and I'm like, I don't know anybody that's had a home birth.
Send them to me, and if they don't want to hear it from me, I know of a ton of other moms and doulas. I know a ton of other doulas that have had home births themselves or other moms because of the doula. Like, I'm I wish women would listen, because doulas are such a saving grace, and they bring so much to the table other than physical and emotional support. They bring so much. Education is probably one of the main things that they bring, and of course there's other things, but that's part of our job. We love to educate. Like, I could educate you all day on vaginas, childbirth, and breastfeeding, and think it's the funnest thing ever. So just I wish.
I'll never get tired of answering your questions.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wish I had an audience for it, because not many of them are willing to listen, or they're like, okay, if I have any questions, I'll text you or I'll call you, but you never get those.
I guess you need to normalize doulas because you
Yeah.
have, grandparents, you have husbands, you have
Yeah.
cousins always giving their opinion, and
Yeah.
sometimes mamas need to form their own opinion, so they need to hear the educational side.
Mhm. And we're unbiased for a reason.
Yes.
So,
well, I want to thank you so much for meeting
yeah,
me tonight. And I was so
sorry
happy.
I didn't give you a chance to talk.
No, I don't want to talk. I want to listen. I don't want to. I'm talking. Awesome. Well, I'll be in touch soon. And thank you so much.
No, for real. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
I can't wait for people to hear your story. I'm very excited.
Oh, thank you.
Y'all have a good night.
You too. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Say bye. Say bye.